Hi, my name is Zachary Angela, and I wanted to go over the gist of why I use Go. I had taken classes in C Sharp, PHP, kind of web development, took a class in C++, kind of terminal stuff, um, and VB and VB.net. And, just tried to fill my palette of what programming actually means to me. I wasn't at the time during school kind of self imposing the concepts, like really digging into it myself, at least not for a couple of years. And that, I think, made me not get the full view of those languages. And so I think I may have lost a lot of time because of that. But on the side, at least way later on, especially in my last year, um, I was really getting into JavaScript on my own because it just seems so accessible and more free, but more free sort of has a price, right? And so eventually got into Python on my own, and that because I wanted to build a back-end RESTful API service, like that was my goal. Like that was, for whatever reason, I needed to have that. Like I just wanted to learn it. But this was back in 2010, 2011, 2012. I think all the way up to 2014. Yeah, I don't think I was in school in 2010. I think it was just like 2012 or 11 to 14. But I was just starting to pick up the concepts and everything. And when I was really trying to dig into it on my own was when I actually started learning. And so I learned a lot of JavaScript on my own. I was really getting into how to build web pages and everything. And that to me seemed neat and cool and all this stuff. And I got into Python because, like I said, I wanted to do RESTful API. I was learning, doing tutorials on the Django and Flask and trying to build a RESTful API. And there just wasn't a whole lot of resources then on RESTful. There were some, and I obviously tried to use what I could, but it just was not plentiful as it is now. So, I really spent a lot of time trying to learn that stuff. Like I would take vacation weeks off and just focus in on learning that 10 hours a day. Um, but it just got really complicated then. I'm sure now it's a lot easier. I know Node.js and everything has gotten way better. And then I think there's Dino now and everything. But what was sort of a turning point for me was when I was getting into JavaScript frameworks, like when Angular had first came out, and Vue and so on and so forth. I would just get frustrated because they were changing so much, and it would be just kind of a turn and burn. And so I think through that frustration of trying to set up some kind of front end, having some kind of mental model at the back end, and then trying to put them together was just not a great experience. And then my brother sent me a link on Go from Y Combinator, and I was like, "Oh, what is this Google language? It's probably like some souped up Java. Probably does a whole bunch of stuff for you with just a couple lines, and you don't know what's going on, and you know, it's just." And so I didn't really look at it until I just was getting so frustrated with Python and these JavaScript frameworks that I was like, screw it. I'll just I'll just try it. Whatever. And so I actually went to this page and I was trying to kind of write JavaScript or whatever, or Python into it. And man, it just every single time I tried, it would just error, 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 error. And I was like, oh man. But the thing is, I actually had stuff going after a while, right? And I started to think, well, I didn't actually have to look up a lot of that stuff because the compiler kind of told me, you know, what it is I'm doing wrong, right? And so after a while, I started to kind of pick it up, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll learn a little bit more about it. We'll see what happens again, but I'm kind of tired of this stuff, you know? And so I went to the tour of Go, which is right here, and that was kind of nice. Um, and I think just after a while, um, when I learned also that it never changes really, I think that's when it really kicked in that, oh, so forever on, this is going to be useful knowledge. I don't have to keep learning these frameworks and syntax and all this stuff. Um, and then I learned, the original creators was Ken Thompson, Rhett Pike, and them, and that was, and so then I started to get it more, and then I was actually able to create the RESTful API and relatively easily. And I had a mental model of what was going on to a degree. And it's just started to click. And I was like, oh man, I'm actually building stuff. I'm not getting these weird, crazy pointer errors that I didn't actually set up. It's just part of the framework. I'm not doing frameworks in Go. People actually in the Go community are somewhat against frameworks. I mean, if the code works, it works, whatever. But I'm not for any particular battle. I just want to have something that I can use, that I can understand, that I know in the future I won't have such issues with, and it won't break on me, and I don't have to learn a new framework. And there's a lot of frustration about all that stuff. And so for me, it really changed everything. The whole concurrency and parallelism thing, I think a lot of people who just learn JavaScript sort of aren't familiar with it because it's not really part of their realm, sort of, because JavaScript itself, the ECMA JavaScript, isn't parallel. There's web workers, but it's really a C library that's binded within the browser. And so it's not actually part of JavaScript, it's just JavaScript binds to it to get the data. And in Node.js, again, it's just a binding, and also the language creators say kind of not to use it. And so maybe the Dino has something in the works or whatever that I'm not familiar with, but either way, for me personally, I don't use it a whole lot just because it complicates the heck out of everything. Even if in Go it's just 2 keywords, and then it becomes parallel. You have to think about it as in you're looking at 2 files at once that are running, because parallelism is that they're running at the same time. What makes something parallel is different hardware. So you have multiple CPUs, that's running in parallel. So for me, it just was something that grew on me, not because it was new and cool, not because it was from Google, not because I didn't even know about the creators of it before I even picked it up. The speed thing, I just didn't care in the beginning. Like, I was like, I just want something that works, that I have a mental model of. I don't want to have to deal with this stuff. And so, just after a while, everything works. I have a full mental model of everything, and I don't have to worry about it, and it doesn't change. And it's used for creating RESTful APIs, systems programming, terminal stuff, all sorts of things. And so, and you don't really have to use packages. That's nice. Some people just say install the package, who cares? Well, I don't want to deal with errors and all that. Like, no more turn and burn for me. Basically, I'm anti turn and burn. Not gonna do it anymore. I know before Go 1 there was a lot of that because it kept changing, but since Go 1 it really hasn't changed very much at all. And so for me, I think throughout the years, that's probably the most important thing. And That's and companies use it. Obviously, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Walmart. There's a podcast called Go Time that sort of brings in some of those people from those companies and talks to them about it. Um, yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And so if you want resources on it, they have it all right here. The project, packages, documentation. The documentation is just wonderful. Like just a wonderful thing. Same thing with the packages. These are internal packages. Um, if you go to like any one of these, let's say IO, and it'll give you all the readout of all the functions, and then all the types, and then the methods on those types, and it'll tell you exactly what their signature is. This is a pointer. This is the type that it uses, which is right up here, and it returns. Well, no, this not returns is the method's name. This is what it returns is the error. Yeah, so, and what's really cool and nice is if you want to borrow this method for, let's say, another type or whatever, you can. You just copy paste it, and it's really easy and nice. And for functions that are a little more complicated, like this one uses two methods, reader and closer, for a type interface. Interface is not the same as other languages. It auto implements, meaning you don't have to put extend whatever. You just make the interface and whatever structs automatically get it. So that when those structs have those methods, they automatically get that interface. Which is really nice. And it gives a nice explanation, and you can look at pretty much the source code, and it gives you an explanation even further and how it was developed. I mean, it's just a really nice thing. I don't know why other languages don't do that. And it installs on any kind of architecture without extra packages or any of that. It's just a flag change and that's it. Yeah, it's really nice. So if you're thinking about getting into it, just go to golang.org and just work from there, sort of. There's also Go by Example, which is a great site. If you have any questions, just let me know, and be more than happy to help you with it. Thank you.